Hey, thanks for joining us in Moving Conversations. Before we get on with the show, listen, I want to remind you that I'm going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona on April 12th and 13th with my post-rehab summit. So if you're at all interested in learning more about post-rehabilitation, low back pain, knee pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, all that kind of stuff, how to manage clients with those type of conditions, that's really the best place to find some great practical application on all of that. So Post Rehab Summit, if you go to the website, thefirmbodypilates.com and hit the tab in the upper right-hand corner that says Post Rehab Summit, that's where all the information is. Check it out, and I hope to see you all there. And now, on to the show. Welcome to Moving Conversations, a podcast for movement professionals by movement professionals. If you coach, train, or teach movement, Pilates, or fitness, then this podcast is for you. With more than 60 years of experience in fitness and Pilates, your hosts, Brian Ritchie and Nora St. John, explore the science of human movement, diving deep into the facts, myths, and common misconceptions, hoping to spark thought and conversation about how we view fitness and movement. Now, let's jump into Moving Conversations. And welcome to Moving Conversations. This is Brian Ritchie. Joining me soon will be Nora St. John, as well as a special guest. That's right. We have a special guest today. Her name is Madeleine McCormack, and her specialty is social media. And I thought that it would be really interesting to go toward the business side of things for a change and talk about social media, when to post, how to post. And Madeleine is an expert in this arena. Okay, she's got 6 years of experience, led multi-channel campaigns with top boutique fitness brands like Orange Theory Fitness, P-Volve, Parsi Speed School. Okay, she specializes in sales, market strategy, community engagement, client management. You're going to learn so much today. All right. So before we do that, though, please do us a favor. Hit that like and subscribe button on the platform of your choice. You can always reach out to us at movingcombos@gmail.com. That's the best way to get in touch with us. Also, please engage with us when you see us on Instagram at Moving Combos. We really appreciate every like, subscribe, share. Really goes a long way for us. So please do so. And now on to the show. Like I said, we basically want to sort of come at today with an idea of here's a novice, because in fitness, there's a lot of people who are young, who are under 25, who are under 30, who really understand the technology and they're on Instagram all the time and whatnot. And there's those of us who are on, I'm doing my second round of my 20s. So, it's a little tough to come to social media as sort of a late bloomer and not really know what to do. And when I met you, I think we met each other a couple years ago at a fitness conference.
Yes,
I believe.
Probably.
I think maybe it was last year in Chicago.
Yes, we did meet. We did meet last year in Chicago. I have been in this industry though. I started with SCW Fitness in 2018. That
So
was
it's
my
been a little
first
bit.
job out of college. So I feel like it was probably even way back then
Probably.
that we
Probably.
were introduced. But I did meet you, most recently in Chicago. Yes.
Well, I got to say, the main reason I wanted to talk with you in Chicago was because we share someone in common, your mom.
We do.
She has been in the fitness industry for a long time, Madeleine McCormack, and she and I were in Korea, and we were sitting in the presenters VIP area. VIP area was basically, a couple of chairs sitting over in the corner.
Sure, exactly.
But we were sitting there and we started talking, and we spoke for probably 2.5, 3 hours, and it was a great conversation. And she brought you up a number of times. And I thought, next time I get an opportunity, I wanted to talk with you because I thought your story was pretty fascinating. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into the industry, and we'll go from there, and then we'll jump into our questions.
Yeah, that'd be great. So it is funny that you mentioned my mom. I have been in the industry, like I said, since 2018. So right out of college, it was my big, audacious dream to be, a radio news anchor at NPR. I had done some, more journalistic reporting and podcasting in college. I have a degree in digital media. And I really wanted to, work in Chicago, kind of big time media. That dream, takes some time. And in 2018, right after college, in my young 20s, early 20s, I was pretty impatient. So I gave up on that a little quickly and moved on. And I got a great job working, like I said, for SCW Fitness Education out of Chicago. I lived there for about 2 years. And during my time there, I started out as a marketing coordinator, and I was traveling to all of the conferences across the country in different major markets. Contributing to those marketing efforts and supporting the marketing team to promote those shows, to gather content at the shows, to climb up a ladder at 3 in the morning and hang a banner on the wall,
We've all
things
been
like
there.
that. Yes. So, really getting my hands dirty in my first role in fitness. After that, I kind of transitioned back into media. I anchored morning radio news for the Midwest market here in Des Moines, for iHeartRadio. And actually, I'm San Diego based, but I'm visiting my parents in Des Moines right now. So that's why I said
Nice.
here in Des Moines. But I relocated back to Des Moines for a couple of years, and I was anchoring radio news. And it was during a very politically heavy time, 2020 through 2021, 2022. And after that, it kind of burnt me out, and I retreated back to fitness.
Nice.
So I moved to San Diego. I started working for Orange Theory. I had the opportunity with Orange Theory to open a brand new studio location in downtown San Diego, and what a great experience that was. And following, my time at Orange Theory, I started working with IDEA Health and Fitness Association, and I was with them through the just the end of this past year. So looking for new opportunities, but all of those opportunities, whether it be in media or in fitness, have kind of melded together to shape not only my passion for kind of branding this industry and supporting marketing efforts that communicate a specific brand. Boutiques are something that I've spent a lot of time in. But also, just being able to kind of tell the story of so many fitness professionals along the way, and meet so many people. And that's been really rewarding.
Awesome. It's interesting when you mention your background. I'm having flashbacks because my mom was in the fitness industry. That's how I got into the business. She injured her knee and basically said, I have to have surgery. I don't want to lose my business. I have 3 days to make you a personal trainer and a group exercise instructor. Do you want this? I was like, okay. And she had torn her ACL and PCL and medial meniscus. So it was like, okay, I guess I'm jumping in with 2 feet. I was in professional radio for a number of years. I did, sound design and engineering for, some bands and radio stations and all sorts of things. So it's kind of funny that you're mentioning all this going, wow, yeah, I did news. I did a lot of this kind of stuff. So it's interesting. We both sort of found our feet in fitness.
Well, you find if you're sitting in a news booth for hours at a time, you're not maybe that healthy. So that's
Yeah.
something that I wanted to change for sure.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Nora and I have talked about social media for a long time and I'm not going to use the word distaste, but I am going to use the word avoidance because it can be a time suck. And it's very difficult to become efficient at it when you're trying to launch a brand and things like that. So, what we thought we'd love to do is just have you explain to people who may be a novice, because we have a lot of Pilates instructors out there and a lot of fitness people who follow us and listen to the podcast who may be a little bit older, may not be as tech savvy, and may want to know, where should I start? How should I begin? And whatnot. And just so everybody knows, if you're watching on YouTube, Nora may be freezing a little bit. She's not staying perfectly still. That's just, it's her camera's acting up, but we do have great audio, so that's perfect. So she's going to be jumping in as well. So yeah, if we were sitting at a coffee table right now, just chatting, where would you say we should begin if we wanted to sort of launch our brand? What is a brand? Where
Yeah.
should we start?
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. What is a brand? When you think about one thing, one of my college professors told me that really stuck with me one day in class. She had us kind of look around the room or as an assignment, kind of pay attention to all of the names and logos on things and just be aware of them. And, after we, were kind of brought that activity and asked to come to conclusions, the point of that was just for her to say, any of these are companies that you could work for. Any of these
Hmm.
are recognizable, tangible, sometimes even things and businesses that you could contribute to. And that brand and that logo, because I was in, digital media and graphic design, that kind of thing. She's like, that's the kind of work that you could contribute to. So think about that. And I think that I guess right now, as I'm in the fitness space, I think about the way that some of the brands that I've contributed to and supported are viewed out there in the wild. So for example, like the OTF Splat logo has, blown up. They've got 1,500 franchise locations, all over the world, and everybody knows that OTF Splat and the hand signal. And that didn't start from nothing. That had to be built over, almost 20 years. Well, I might be giving them a little more credit than that. But they've been around for 10 plus years, I can say with confidence. And they have, I believe in my experience, and just because I did work for them, they have one of the best brand developed brands in the fitness space, and that's because of their sales training, and that's because of their ability to, through their marketing and through their messaging and all those communication channels, decide how their audience is actually responding to them and then adapt and change. And I think that's a huge indicator of successful brands. But going back to, just kind of what is a brand, it's definitely more than a logo. It's your reputation and it's your identity. And it's essential for safeguarding the integrity across your customer touch points. So
Hmm.
all of that to say, when somebody sees your brand, they should have your 30-second pitch and exactly who you are come to mind. And if that's not happening, that's something that you can build towards. And something that I find so much passion in talking to studios about, especially new fitness studios. I've had the opportunity to open and work for a couple, like I said, brand new studios. And you work with the sales team and you get little flashcards that say, what is, this concept, because your customers are coming in and they expect you to know that, and that definitely upholds the integrity of the brand.
What's interesting is Nora and I were talking about that before we even started, and creating your true authentic self, because so many people put up a front. They have their sort of image, and what they want is their image. And how do you create that authenticity that's going to come through your brand, through your marketing, through everything? If you're a small company that just has a few employees versus, OTF, you're talking Orange Theory Fitness, I assume.
Yes.
So with something like Orange Theory Fitness, where, they're not, they're not Lifetime Fitness, they're not gigantic, but they're big. So
Hmm.
they have a certain, number of people. So, I mean, you can really scale that to a lot of different levels. But if you're talking about something where it is small, where you may be, under 5 or 10 employees, how to create that authentic self and really have who you are come out in that branding.
Yeah.
How I find that to be very important, because I want someone to know that when they're coming here, they're coming to me when they walk
Yeah.
into my studio.
And that is sometimes the greatest challenge because we, especially in the sales process, we run into, the paradox of choice, right? We're trying to
Mm,
get people to become a part of our community. We have all of these membership options. We have all of these things that our marketing communicates about what we can do for them. But I think what people are really looking for is a sense of community
mm,
that they can authentically connect to, like you're talking about, and also simplicity. They just want to show up and get their workout done, and it needs to be consistent. So that branding is really important to kind of support that effort to keep your members. Um, and I want to touch back, Brian, too, on just what is branding, and then how would I get started marketing or branding a concept if I had one as a novice. And I would say, it's time to choose your platforms. Where do you want to invest your
mm.
time? Where do you have the capacity to invest your time? Gone are the days of just putting yourself on every single platform and hoping that one of those picks up and you go viral and are super successful, somewhere or across them all. Um, there are
There's so
millions more
many.
people on social media these days than 10 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
there's two things: way more people, so a much larger market to try to hone and navigate and find your people within. But then at the same time, emerging are all of these niche audiences and niche markets. And I think specifically to, TikTok and Instagram Reels, it's become so much more easy for consumers to find very specific information on social
Hmm.
media platforms. And that is where your brand, and even if you're just a fitness professional, on your own, solo entrepreneur, you can think about, what do I have the capacity for to authentically connect with new clients or the clients that I do have? How do I show that I'm the expert in this area? And there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to the type of content, and we can chat about that in a bit if you'd like. But I definitely think that the most important thing is to decide where you want your energy to go and just go
Hmm.
for it there. So if it's a YouTube channel, focus all your energy on YouTube, and then slowly take tidbits from that and put them on Instagram or TikTok, or just use YouTube Shorts. Start small and build upon that. You're not going to go viral overnight. So, I think it's important to,
As we've learned.
yeah, I think it's important to be realistic and give yourself some time to develop that.
So one of the challenges that I just want to bring up here is one of the things that I find in talking to a million studio owners, and I'm not in the big fitness industry, I'm in the Pilates industry, which, aside from a few big brands like Club Pilates, et cetera, is composed of a lot of one-off studios, 6 people, 12 people, one little studio, two little studios in an area. And one of the things that I find a lot for them is they have no idea what their brand is, or what they're trying to do, and how they present themselves in a way that brings people in. Oftentimes, again, because these are small one-off studios, so much of it is word of mouth. And one of the things that I sometimes say to studios is, wait until you know who you are, because sometimes when somebody first opens a studio, they're like, whoa, I'm everything to everybody. And you're not actually. You actually tend to work with people who are athletically inclined, golfers and tennis players in their 30s and 40s, for
Mhm.
example. Or you're somebody who does a lot of post rehab stuff, and you tend to work with people who are more in their 40s and 50s. So some of it too is helping to understand what your market is, and then also gearing, I think, your marketing a little bit towards them, towards who you tend to attract once you know that, if you know that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with smaller studios too, and you mentioned word of mouth is what you want. It is the absolute best in my opinion, in my experience, marketing tool, especially in the digital age when anybody, including AI, can create something that will trigger something. So we trust people when they give us word of mouth recommendations. And I think it's especially for small community based studios, the most powerful tool. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest in a teeny town called Huxley, Iowa, and our, main kind of fitness people, one of them being my mom, but she was primarily in the larger Midwest markets. But, like smaller Pilates instructors or fitness instructors in my community, it was all word of mouth. And so for them to be active on social media, my biggest suggestion to those kinds of communities is to really, really connect with your community. You have a much smaller pool of influence. And this is your opportunity to, if you're the Pilates instructor in the community, your son, for example, is definitely playing on the same football team as the woman who comes to your class and has been for the last 10 years. So, show those connections in your daily life and take a picture with her and put it on your story. Just really show how you and your community has supported you. Kind of show that reciprocity with your community because you have their attention. It's a small enough space to do that.
Nice. So that's
Yeah.
it's just a different focus. That's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, appreciate that.
That's interesting. And I'm sure market size has a lot to do with that too. You said you grew up in a smaller town. I'm here in Washington, D.C. It's a much larger, city. New York City would be even larger. There's different scalings when it comes to things like that. So really understanding where you are. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who owns clubs in New York, and he's like, if I just get everybody on this block, I'm busier for I'm never going to not be busy because there's a million people in one square block,
Yes.
around him. Whereas, and in Washington, D.C., there's a little bit of that. But in a small town, you really have to hit the whole town eventually and get people to know where you are, who you are, and all of that. So understanding where your marketing is and where you're marketing to is all very important.
Yeah. I think too, in the bigger markets, one thing that I've noticed is a little bit more successful for fitness professionals is connecting with other fitness professionals in the same market and showing the community that you are you have that ability to connect with other people. You're not in competition with them, you're in collaboration with them because
Right.
especially for, I'm kind of on the tail end of being a millennial. I'm born in 96, I'm 28. And I think for especially this age group, one thing that I've noticed in the success on social media in particular, if you're a fitness professional slash creator, content creator, you're showing your programming, your workouts, maybe you're an Orange Theory coach, maybe you're a P-Volve instructor, maybe you work at Club Pilates, whatever it is, you're carrying that brand, but you're also carrying your personal brand. And if that personal brand kind of connects with this other personal brand, your community is going to be like, oh, awesome. I would love to go take Haley's class. Or, thanks so much, Sarah, for that recommendation. I went and took, Jessica's class and it was absolutely incredible. So in those larger markets, I feel like because of that proximity that you were talking about, Brian, it's almost like, you know, maybe this is a stereotype, but in bigger cities, people are still, there's a lot of community there, but they're in their own little worlds. They're going to make
Yep.
their own decision about, what that's going to be like for them, and that what that fitness experience is going to be like for them. So they almost look to an expert, right? Point me in the direction instead of going to, next door 4C. Hey, Josh, did you go to that fitness class? You want to go with me? It's not like that. I
Right.
mean, maybe it is, but I don't think it is. And I've watched a lot of Sex
Not
in
the
the
same.
City. So,
Yeah. What I find most interesting is it's hard to wade through the muck and the mire when it comes to branding, and especially on social media, because there's a lot of people who claim to be the experts. And Nora and I have been teaching for most of our career. we've been educating people. And I consider myself an educator. I would never ever consider myself an influencer. I consider myself an educator. That's what I do. But I have a lot of young people who are much younger than you are, in their early 20s. Maybe they have a degree, maybe they don't, and they want to do what I do. They have no life experience. They have no experience in the industry, but they all want to be considered the expert already when they have no expertise, but they've got the hot bod. They can turn on a camera and suddenly say, I'm the fitness expert. And because they're good looking, they're going to establish a certain following just because of their looks, not what comes out of their face. You know what I mean? And it's hard to sort of wade through that. And how can someone wade through that and make it a better experience, but also for someone like us who we're not going to be that person. It's not our gig.
Yeah, well, I'll even one up you, Brian. And AI is out there, and
Oh my gosh.
people can edit their stuff, and they can just put their face on a fake body or whatever it looks like, and give you fitness advice, and that's really harmful and dangerous to our industry. So I hear you on that. I think where I want to start with that, because there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, we could go on probably for the rest of the day talking about that. But I think a couple things are going to be really important. Number one, we need to acknowledge that, the generations that are coming up, they have had access to technology and information, and that makes them feel like an expert because they can plug into ChatGPT on their phones and get an answer. So
Right.
they didn't have to necessarily go to a library and take notes with a pen and paper, like so many fitness professionals that are leading the industry now have had to do. So I think that there's kind of two sides to that. I feel for the professionals like you, like my mom, and so many of the people that I look up to in this industry and have learned from, because you guys really laid the foundation for the fitness professionals today, whether you kind of like it or not. And the fitness professionals today, unfortunately, because of all of the work that you've done, they now have access to that just on their phones and wherever they can get it electronically. And then we've got the TikTok experts and influencers, and the Instagram reels influencers, just kind of playing telephone, regurgitating information. And the second part to that is, okay, when do you then, as a consumer, say, I'm going to do my own digging into that? And I think that's, just societally, there's a kind of encouragement, I think, to be doing that, especially now. Sorry, my cat keeps jumping up here. It's driving me nuts. Um, but there's a calling, I think, especially in the age of AI and social media, to do your own research and find people who you do consider an expert. And I would give advice to younger fitness professionals to look to a mentor, to look to someone like you, Brian, or my mom, or Debbie Bellinger, or Dr. Aaron Nitschke, or Dr. Darian Parker, or any of these incredible professionals, to get a mentor, because one thing that's going to set you apart as a fitness professional coming up, trying to get respect from people like you, and work ultimately to be hired and to be a part of those teams, and continue the missions of these companies that have, or these businesses or professionals, educators, that have laid the foundation. You're going to need to inquire more, be curious more than you think that you are the expert and that you know what everything. And that's been, I'm preaching to the choir, because that's a lesson that I've learned in my professional career so far.
I can't tell you how many times when I'm speaking at conferences, one of the first things that I'll say to a group, welcome, glad you all here. How many of you have taken, your classes, you're enjoying it, yada, yada. And I'll say, now listen, I want to remind you that everything here when you're listening to it, when you're taking it in, ask yourself a simple question. Does it feel right to you? Does it sound right? Does it sort of pass that test? Because if it doesn't, it's your job to not just trust the person up here who's telling you this information, because they may or may not have any facts. They may be talking about anecdotal. They may be talking about, well, this worked on one client of mine. Just because I'm up here talking doesn't necessarily mean that I know everything and that we are curious. We are still learning. And if you have any questions, go to the library, look it up, do your research. Because there have been times I've sat in classes and I've been thinking, what is this person talking about? And some of the time I'll look it up and think, okay, they were full of it. And other times I'll start doing some research and saying, wow, they are on the cutting edge. Holy moly, they are really on the cutting edge. And I'm so glad that I got to sit in on that. And now I'm doing my own research, because it's phenomenal what I'm learning. And I was introduced to this from somebody. But again, they had to pass the scratch test first for me. And then I did my own research. And I'm afraid that too many people are just taking, oh, someone is talking in front of this group, they must know everything. Because I've heard a lot of, let's just say, theories that may or may not pass the mustard, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've sat in on classes like that too.
Our industry is relatively young in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
And especially in the last 10, 15, 20 years, we have seen a huge development in just the way fitness and health and fitness wellness are perceived by our culture.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be, the Jack LaLannes to the muscle competitions that, still run rampant, in my opinion, through the industry. And then, we've got all of these consumers now wanting to be healthier, live longer. And I think that is especially developed in the last 5 years post, COVID pandemic, global pandemic. So all that to say, our industry is still earning, growing, and changing a lot.
Yeah.
And so that word of mouth and those people that you can look to and can trust are going to be really important, even for professionals like yourselves. Because, the information and the technology is only developing further. We're not scaling back from that at all, ever. So it's important to not only embrace it, but then, like you're saying, deploy critical thinking skills,
Mm-hmm.
and do with that what you will. And by doing so, kind of bringing this full circle, you are being authentic to you. You are doing the work to decide what is authentic to you, so that you can find people who are like you, and that is your community and that is your brand.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Good wrap up on that, because it really is like you only attract who you
Yeah.
attract. And
Yep.
as I've gotten older, I'm more to realize, like, the people who want to come hang out with me are going to come hang out with me. The people who don't, it's fine. They can go hang out with somebody else. There's a million people out there that one can find to be part of the community. That's great. Well
Absolutely.
said.
Now, something that Nora and I were talking about before you came on was about being as efficient as possible, because the last thing we want to do is have to spend an entire day creating posts. And you can spend all your time doing that, and there are people online who that is their job, and they do a great job of it. They become more popular and whatnot, but we have a job to do, and that's seeing our clients, that's teaching our classes, that's creating more content that we teach with, not necessarily online. So what would you say would be the most efficient use of our time when we are talking about how often do you post, where do you post, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so let's just give an example, if you can dedicate, because I talked earlier about your capacity, right? So you do want to
Yeah.
consider as a professional what you have time for, what you have the capacity for. If you want to be a full-time influencer, I mean, you're gonna be creating content and on social media like it's your full-time job. But if you are just an educator, and I consult a lot of fitness professionals on this, just in their brand building. But if you are an educator and see yourself as an educator, I think my number one tip to kind of get started on social media, or to align yourself with a brand, or to create some kind of a brand, as an educator, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you do present education, but occasionally you also present, branded education, or you work with companies
Mhm.
that have content that fitness professionals can even sometimes buy, maybe you can even profit from.
Sure.
And so those are the things that I would be considering, because as an educator, your primary role, and I think to your credibility it should stay this way, is to educate and to be focused in an academic space, and to be working with clients, and being in a practical space. But that doesn't mean that you can't be on social media as well, creating a brand. So I would, number one, identify, any opportunities for making a little money, like through an affiliate link or something, aligning yourself with a popular brand that's already out there, so that you can tag them and piggyback off of their content. Or, just think about what it is that you do contribute to the conversation, to the community, and put that forward. Um,
Mhm.
if you've got something like, I think, for example, on LinkedIn, that's a good place for educators to be. It's a primarily business focused space, employment focused space, but there are a lot of really productive conversations happening there. There are a lot of like private groups you can join and be a part of, and have kind of an influence in that way. So three things: kind of decide what your capacity is, decide what your opportunities are, and then decide how you want people to identify you or with you. And those are the content opportunities that I would look for. And if you're someone who just wants to kind of check the box and do what's typical or what's on average for brands these days, typically brands that are successful are posting like 3 to 5 times a week, but they do engage on whatever platforms are most seen and engaged with, where they have the most reach. They're doing that probably every day. So if you have a lot of reach on Instagram stories, you should do that every day. If you have a lot of reach in a private Facebook group, you should be engaging on that every day. And if you don't honestly have anything to say, nobody has something to say every single day. I certainly don't. So if you don't have anything to say that day, that's okay. And if that's your brand, sometimes people can be quirky and funny, and make a post like, I don't have anything to say today, and that's your brand. But I think it's just, uh, you know considering those three things,
Yeah.
or deciding if you kind of want to check the boxes, and just start posting and see what happens from there, which I also encourage.
Interesting. Interesting. Because it's very easy to just sort of jump out there and start posting things without having a focus.
Yeah.
Nora and I started doing something that for the our podcast is I started doing a live version where we would show the exercise that we were talking about. And when she and I would get together, we created, these Anatom Minis that, great title that Nora came up with, and
Yeah.
talking about anatomy and talking about different things, fun things, just to get people interested in a different way. And I found that those are a lot of fun. They're fun to create. And unfortunately, with us being on different coasts, we have only a few times a year where we can get together and sort of do a lot of recordings, and we'll record for a full day, and that'll give us, a bunch of content for a little while. But it is easy to think for some people, oh, I have to do this every day. And you don't want it to be a drudgery. You don't want it to be something you're like, oh, do I really have to do that today?
Right.
Because then it's no fun and that energy is going to come out on camera.
Right. Absolutely. And it's not authentic. When you don't
Yeah.
want to do it, it's not authentic. So just thinking back to, I think when we think about social media, we give we give a lot of power to the community. And I was starting to say way too much, but maybe not. We just give a lot of power to the community, and that's a great thing because you that shows that you care about your community and you're listening to them, and you don't want to just flood them with crap they don't care about. But at the same time, they can tell when you're just posting to post, or
Yeah.
you can tell when you have great success with this type of content and not a lot of success with this type of content. um, so I agree with you, and I think that just if you don't feel like it you shouldn't do it. If you're ready to do it, then you should do it. And you mentioned earlier there are a lot of people you can hire, and there are websites like Fiverr, that you can go and hire someone super cheap, relatively cheap, to post, do some social media posting for you. There are a lot of college interns that would love to have the opportunity to work on a brand and to put that on their portfolio. So, just thinking, depending on whatever your budget might be, and
Mhm.
what you have the capacity for, there's a lot of opportunity. So I think in order to get started, it's just important to get focused and consider the commitment, because I think a lot of times it's like, again, one of these just checked boxes, like, I need to be on social media. Well, if word of
Right.
mouth is super strong for you, you really don't need to be on social media. Maybe there's a way you can connect yourself to the studio brand, on social media, or just celebrate and spend time with your community in other ways.
You, you've mentioned community a lot, and I find that really valuable. And I think that's something that people forget because everybody wants to be a worldwide, you know, person. And I hate to say celebrity status means something, but so many people want to have that, want to have sort of that status amongst their peers.
Yeah.
And something that I always found interesting is when I go to events, one of the ones that I found to be the strongest. Now, I've been to uh, almost all of the different fitness conferences. And to be honest, the one that I found the strongest in term of community was Pilates on Tour. It was smaller. There were, I Nora could tell me, the first one I went to was in Chicago, and it seemed like there were several hundred people, but everybody had the same interest, the same goal, the same everything in mind. And it was so interesting to be with people who are so like-minded and very welcoming as well. Whereas when I've gone to large conferences with several thousand people, it's easy to get lost. It's easy to be just a face in the crowd, and you can see cliques forming. And if you don't really fit in with that, it feels very high schoolish, and you're kind of like, I don't know. I don't know where I fit in here. Whereas some of the smaller ones, like I say, Pilates on Tour, they immediately welcomed me in, even though I came more from the fitness world. And I thought, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah. Um, yes, I had thoughts and I got distracted. So,
Sorry,
no,
sorry.
it's okay. I would agree with you that niche audiences are stronger in their sense of community. Um, and I would also add that, um, people now, kind of going back to like the social media landscape, like people now, there are just so many things out there, um, that it can be, like you said, easy to just be lost in all of the options, the paradox of choice. It's too much. We don't know which direction to go, and who to connect with. Um, and I think that the success of those smaller conferences or those niche conferences is definitely in their sense of community. I'm thinking back to even when Idea Health and Fitness Association got started, they were just the International Dance Exercise Association, and their first conference was like 600 plus dance exercise group
Yep.
exercise instructors.
I
And
remember
I
those
think
days.
that's why it was so successful, because it was all dance exercise, all group X. It was the craze. And
Aerobics.
yeah, and it diversified over time, which was a positive thing. But then I think it got too saturated, right? And then people, because of this landscape of just all these options, they kind of cling to their communities and their tribes,
Mhm.
because they don't want to feel lost in the crowd. So yeah, for social media, for branding, for marketing, your community is your most powerful tool and asset. And if you're just getting started, figure out how you can build a team that build a team, build around your values, and just watch how that brings people to you and attracts people to you.
I like that. I like that. If you were going to work with someone who, like I say, let's say someone listens to this and is like, I really want to talk with her. I really want to find out more and figure out what I need to do. What would you, could you give us like 3 or 4 quick takeaways, something that you could say, okay, if you're going to start, here's where you really should be focusing your energy for the next, 6 months or whatnot.
Yeah. So let's say this person was really successful on Instagram, because the first thing I'm going to do when I work with people is I audit all of their channels, wherever they're active. We just get really
Mm.
real about where they are in the public forums and what they look like on those forums. Because I've worked with people who have really super polished Instagram profiles and YouTube channels. And I've worked with people who got it in 2009 when it was cool, and they haven't touched it since, and not when it was cool, but when it was, first starting, and they haven't touched it since. So let's say this is a professional who wants to, grow on Instagram, but they haven't gotten, a lot of traction there. The first thing I would do is, especially for Instagram, and LinkedIn is another thing, but especially for Instagram, just because of the ease of access people have to it. Make sure that bio is like your online CV, your resume, who you are, what you do, where people can contact you, and then moving down below that bio, kind of into the content, make sure that looks aesthetically good, because it does hurt your credibility when things are not lined up correctly, or the just anything that could throw off the user, or the person
Mm.
looking at it, right? Because anything that takes their eye away, you lose people's attention like that. So if you want to keep them there, you know make it readable, make it aesthetically pleasing. I would just take a look at what that looks like. And then the next thing I would do is look at your followers and look at your following. If this is a professional account, and you're an educator, and you want this to be your professional space where people see you as the expert on this topic or this product, um you know you maybe shouldn't be following spam bot accounts, or people who you've known from high school, or people who you don't align with in your values. And then, likewise, you can go look at who's following you, and I would encourage you to do so. Some people would say, no, I'll take the followers, but I would encourage, take a look at your followers. If you've got bot and spam accounts, and all these kind of yucky mucky accounts following you, get rid of them.
Interesting.
It's really easy to do so. And people do look at that, especially as you grow. When you're a smaller brand, that's kind of a less important thing. Maybe if you're in a small community and you've used this Instagram since high school, take a look at your your followers and your following and just kind of audit that. But make sure that you're just aligning everything with who you are authentically and what you have accomplished. Um,
That's fascinating
yeah,
because it just dawned on me. If I go back to like my Facebook, you know how you can join the groups way back when you would join a group, you like a television program, you put that as a like. And I'm just thinking, I haven't looked at that since college or when I first joined. And I'm thinking that might be rather embarrassing because I'm definitely a different person than I was 20 years ago or however many years ago. And that's something I don't think we think about.
no. And
Wow.
I think too that you you may want to consider creating a new account, and
Hmm.
you'd have to start from scratch there. Zero followers, zero following, but that's a really a powerful place to be. I will give a real life example. I grew an account from zero to over 100 followers within like a couple of days, just by being super active on Instagram and letting all my friends know that I had this new account and encouraging them to share it, and just using my community to push that forward. um, I would say those are my three things that I would take a look at if you're wanting to kind of professionalize an Instagram specifically. And I would
Hmm.
encourage you to do that. If you don't want an Instagram because you don't like Meta, then that's all fine. You can get like a digital like business card where people can just tap your phone or whatever, or Bluetooth it. Oh my gosh, what am
Linktree,
I saying?
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can airdrop it. That's what I'm trying to say to you. But if you don't, I mean, Instagram is just a great way for you to have all of that information, and then also show people who you are and what you do, and let them kind of decide if they align with you or not.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh,
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
think I was going to say one other thing. Sorry, I
Please,
lost my
please.
train of thought. Um, One thing I would do, why my, if you wanted to do something this week, I would post to your Instagram story slash Meta, Instagram, Facebook story, if you've got it connected, every single day for a week. If it's one post to your story, or if it's a couple posts to your story, maybe you take a little video and talk to your followers, but post to your story and just see how people engage with that. Because I think people, one, neglect the Instagram story and the power of it, but two, I think you'll be surprised by how many people just kind of mindlessly scroll through that, and they're looking for you, and they want to hear what you're doing and what you're saying, um, just in that brief moment. So yeah, I would just post your story every day for a week and see what happens.
Now, the difference between Instagram and TikTok, I was curious about this because I was looking at it even for just myself. For a long time, I find that Instagram has a lot of parameters that are shortened. You can only do a 90-second, or whereas TikTok seems to, if I wanted to demonstrate an entire exercise, I would have more opportunity to do so
Yeah.
on that platform. Do you find that you get more engagement from TikTok? Is it harder to break through the sort of, I don't know if the word is parameters or whatnot, the algorithm, I guess is what I'm trying to think of, is how do you break through on something like that? Because certain
Hmm.
people keep popping up on mine all the time. And if you watch one video, then all of a sudden, if I keep something on my screen for too long, now I've got 10 videos on a topic that I have no interest in.
Yeah. I have a couple observations about that. I really don't know if I have a definitive answer, but I have a
Mm.
couple observations. It kind of goes back to our industry is still relatively young, and the people who laid the foundation of our industry and who are sharing content like what you're describing, are in in your peer group are the people who, are using Instagram and Meta primarily,
Mhm.
because TikTok, for what it's worth, is primarily like a Gen Z, Gen Alpha, millennial driven app. So another observation I've had is just that educators and a lot of fitness brands, there are a couple that do really well, but educators and people who are showing movement or explaining a concept, they don't get a lot of traction on
Oh,
TikTok. They get more traction on Instagram. And that's just because I think that's where their kind of people are
that
active
makes sense.
over on TikTok. But
Yep.
at the same time, I don't want to say it's not possible just because those people aren't there. They're there. Definitely they are. Um, but what I have observed is just that for whatever reason, yes, on Instagram you have that 90 seconds. Sometimes that works better, especially for movement, because people don't want to
Hmm.
spend, unless you go to YouTube. You could definitely put that kind of content on YouTube. Longer form is always great on YouTube. And then you
Sure.
can take snippets of it and kind of promote it in short form on either of those platforms. Um, but yeah, I guess I would say that, just considering, like you were saying, the algorithm, it changes all the time.
Right.
And TikTok and Instagram are constantly competing with each other as well. So not only are we as creators competing with other creators, but the algorithms are competing with each other as well. And I think it just comes down for success. I think it just comes down to consistency in your posting and really focusing on the content that works, not the content that
Hmm.
you like and that you prefer to create, the content that works. And that's going to mean you're going to experiment with a couple different things before you find what performs, what people are drawn and attracted to, and what gets you better success than other types of content, other forms of content.
That's that's good to know. Thank you, because I've been toying with that, with IG versus TikTok, going back and forth. We have a brand manager, a social media manager, and I was thinking about talking to them and saying, why not let, why haven't we thought about TikTok and everything? But you're absolutely right. It's more Gen Z, it's more Gen Alpha. And I think the people that we are going to attract are closer to us, are going to be more Gen X or more millennial based. So
Mhm.
that is very interesting. And thank you, because I hadn't thought of that. But as soon as you said it, it was like a slap in the face. Well, yeah, of course, obviously. So no, this is good. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a serious assumption or if it is, founded, and I just find that that's my observation.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I feel like there's a lot of, professionals feel super discouraged when they keep posting on TikTok and keep posting on TikTok and nothing is happening and nothing is happening. But they're not actually posting anything on Reels. I just wonder about that, because it's like, okay, well, if this isn't working, give this a try over here and just see what
Hmm.
happens. You can even experiment with the exact same content if you want to. There's some things in between doing that you'll need to do, like remove the watermark and, um, maybe consider your hashtags or, whatever the copy was. But, just use that same content on another platform and see how it performs, kind of run an A/B test on it. Um, but again, that goes back to, what's the most efficient use of our
Hmm.
time, of my time as a professional. If running an A/B test is like you're over your head, you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's okay. But I think if you are the professional that wants that kind of success, uh, try it. or hire someone to help you out.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I think that second part of that, the being able to hire someone, is very valuable
Yeah.
because I mean, Nora, you and I, we talked for how long about, oh, we really should be posting these things. We really should be posting these things. And neither of us had the energy because we were so busy with other things that it
Hmm.
wasn't until we brought someone on board that it was like, okay, here's all of our information. Just tell us what we need. You
Hmm.
tell us, and we will be there. We will provide you with whatever you're asking for. But if we don't know what to do, we needed guidance. And I think
Hmm.
that someone like you provides that guidance and can really sort of shine a path that we wouldn't see otherwise, because it's not our
Yeah.
it's not our it's not our gig.
Yeah, and this landscape is changing all the time. So more and more, I think people are looking to um, people with kind of a special focus on social media or on just digital marketing in general to support those
Mm-hmm.
efforts. And I would encourage it, not only because I work in that space, but because it allows someone to have kind of an outside lens. I think when
Mm-hmm.
you're the business owner, or you're the educator, or you're the, you're the focus, you get too wrapped up in it. And so having kind of an outside perspective, somebody to say, hey, that's actually really good content, can I have that?
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, tell us what you need. Having somebody give a kind of a storyteller view to your brand or your business, or the education that you provide, is really helpful. And you can find people, if you're not in a space to hire. I mentioned this earlier, but get an intern. Call your local community college and say, hey, I've got a personal brand, and I'm just wondering if you've got any students interested in taking an internship for a month. They can have full portfolio view on my account for this time, whatever that might look like. But that's an option. There's a lot of
That's
things you
awesome.
can do, um, to get started in that direction. Um, Ultimately, the goal of going on social media is brand awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
then hopefully that translates into making you some money, because the only reason you want people to see you and look to you and go to you is so that you can either attract and retain members or clients, or bring people into an idea that you are trying to communicate, whatever you contribute to the industry in that way. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, you gave us a lot to think about. I feel as though we could probably have this conversation for another few hours and
We
still
definitely could.
only scratch the surface.
Yes.
So thank you so much
My pleasure.
for coming on board. I would really, really appreciate this. It's a lot of really good information. Where can we, for if someone were to listen to this and say, you know what, I'd love to talk with her. I'd like to get in touch with her. I'd like to either hire her or get her opinion on something. Where could they reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, and Nora as well. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I could definitely go on for the rest of the day about it. So, um, anyone can
Part two,
connect
part
with
three,
me.
part four.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll have a follow up. Anyone can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can look me up, my first and last name, Madeleine McCormack. I'll have Brian and Nora put the link to my account in the show notes.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
you can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Madeline MCC with an underscore. Maybe they can also link that in the show notes. And
Absolutely.
you can also email me. My email is madeline.7990@gmail.com. And right now, some of the services that I'm offering are consulting on social media, on marketing, and any kind of sales or branding support for fitness businesses, solo entrepreneurs, boutique fitness studios. Um, I love digging into you know, the root of the story, the root of the brand with owners, and with managers and with sales teams, and helping them kind of discover the power in that story and how that translates to, you know, like I said, earning and retaining more members. So if you're interested in any of that work, please reach out to me. I'm here for it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We
Thanks,
really,
Madeline.
really
That's great.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I hope you
Yeah.
guys have a great rest of your week.
We will. Thank you so much. And if you guys want to reach out to us, you know, you can always do so through our basically the best way is email. You're going to do movingconvos@gmail.com, Instagram. We're really active on that. You can DM us there at Moving Convos. Facebook, Moving Conversations. Please do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Post, comment, like, all of the above. We really appreciate it. It helps our algorithms, as we just discussed. All of those things make a difference in our world now. And I wish they sometimes didn't, but they do. So please hit all those buttons. We'd really appreciate it. And for Madeleine McCormack, thank you so much. For Nora St. John, I'm Brian Ritchie. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, guys.